riffs, runs, melismas, coloratura, whatever you want to call it. Today we are talking about vocal agility, how to get your voice to move faster. Welcome back to Singing Tips with LJD Studios, the space where we take difficult singing concepts and break them down so you can actually understand and implement them for better singing. I'm Laura, and today we are talking about how to get your voice to do those cool, fancy runs that you hear all the time. If you haven't already, make sure you like, comment, subscribe, hit the notification bell, all the things, and download my free guide, The 3-Tiered Approach to Becoming a Better Singer. That's your step-by-step guide to how your voice works, complete with vocal exercises so that you can understand both in your mind and your body how your instrument works. If you guys hear me rattling around off to the side or some little chirps, that's my son Wesley. He's 4 months old and he's joining me today. You can't see him on camera, but he's here helping me out. So that's what that's about. Okay, so I did a little bit of market research, if you want to call it that, this morning on this idea of how to sing riffs and runs. So I just got on YouTube and I was like, how to sing riffs and runs. And I watched a bunch of videos. And I mean, I liked what I saw. I'm not here to dog on anybody, but I realized there is this gaping void in terms of explanations of the mechanics of doing a riff or a run. I saw tons of exercises, and with a little asterisk, I like most, if not all of them, and have used most, if not all of them. But I think understanding why you're doing the exercise and understanding when to do the exercise is just as important as understanding how to do the exercise. So they give you all these exercises, like do this exercise, and then you will be able to sing a riff or a run. Kinda. Okay? So that's what we're going today, because my shtick, my spiel is about, if you don't understand it, you don't have anything to aim for. You need to understand, how is your voice operating? What is it you're trying to accomplish exactly? Otherwise, you're just kind of in the dark doing these exercises. Am I doing it right? And it gets super frustrating. Okay, so let's talk about the mechanics of a riff or a run first. Okay, I'm going to get really fancy about it here for a second. Singing in general is what we call both a muscular and an aerodynamic event. Okay, what the heck does that mean? Muscular means there is some sort of muscular engagement that occurs, right? So if I'm just going to do like this with my finger over and over, that's a muscular event, right? Aerodynamic means that there is airflow causing movement, right? So when we sing in general, it's muscular in the sense that there are muscles that bring your vocal cords together. There are muscles that start the airflow. There are muscles that sort of begin the coordination of something. Aerodynamic in the sense that as air moves through your vocal cords, it keeps them vibrating. Without that airflow, your vocal cords would never be able to vibrate fast enough to make the pitches that you want to make. So that's the aerodynamic piece of that. So that's just for singing on the whole, but I think when you understand that, you will understand why I say if you really want to be successful in singing your riffs and your runs, you kind of need to play the long game. You need really good, efficient breathing patterns in place. You also need good, efficient resonance patterns in place. And when you have, those are two of the 3 pillars of my 3-tiered approach, but those are 2 of the 3 pillars of singing in general. And when you've got that in place, a lot of the agility stuff comes on its own. If you haven't already seen my video on how to do vibrato, I say the same thing there, because what's happening mechanically in vibrato is kind of similar to what we were going to want to have happen mechanically when we do a riff or a run. And it's this idea that you're moving so quickly that muscularly it's almost impossible to go as fast as you'd want your voice to move if you're just doing it on a muscular level. So there's an airflow piece to this that it really allows your voice to move quickly. So if you want to do really fast, really crazy, really cool riffs, runs, melismas, coloratura, whatever genre you're in, depends on what you're going to call it. But if you want to be able to make your voice move bonkers fast through some crazy patterns, you've got to have those foundations in place. And I'm sorry, because I like to be able to give quick fixes when I can. And this is just not one of those things where I think that works super well. So that's why when I see all these videos out there that are here, do this exercise and you'll be able to sing a riff or a run, I'm like, yeah, If you have these other foundations in place, that's when I think those exercises get really effective. But until you have those foundations in place, I think you're going to find yourself kind of frustrated. Okay, but I'm not going to leave you there. I am going to break it down further for you so that you can do some of those exercises and find yourself successful. But I just wanted to put that little disclaimer out there that just like vibrato, I think riffs and runs are a long game goal. The agility comes when the other stuff is in place. So I like to say this a lot. I don't think I've said it on my channel, but I say it to my students all the time. Go slow and you will get there faster. Build the foundations and the agility stuff will come. Okay, but now let's talk about some of the exercises and what you can do to kind of help yourself along. So I think the most common exercise I see out there is to take whatever that riff or run that you're trying to do, take it and slow it way down and then gradually speed it up. That's great advice. I love that. But again, if you don't have those foundations in place, there's going to be an end cap to how quickly you're going to be able to go. But I think that's really great advice for just learning the pattern because sometimes they're pretty complicated. I'm going to take not the simplest pattern of all time. The starting off point I see a lot is like 3, 2, 1, That's a short little riff. I'm going to do something slightly more complicated than that. So let's take something that sounds like this. Okay. That was kind of fast, right? So I'm going to slow it down. I'm a big fan of using numbers in the learning process so you can kind of figure out like what are the patterns, where are the turning around points. So most riffs and runs will generally move stepwise. Occasionally they'll have like a random skip in there or they'll turn around, right? And so those are the points that we really want to kind of ingrain in our brains. Like where does the pattern break or alter in some way? So with the one I just did, we've got 5, 4, 3. So it sounds like I'm just going down the scale, but then I go back up. 4, 3, 2, but then the pattern continues. And I go back up again. 3, 2, 1, and the pattern continues. So it's these little groupings of 3. Right? So when we put numbers to it, it helps us to kind of see where the patterns are and where the turnaround points occur or where any skips occur. There aren't any skips in this particular pattern, but there are turnaround points. So those numbers kind of help our brain to process like where does the pattern change. That said, when you try to speed it up, the numbers make it more confusing. So I just go slow. First of 5, 4, 3, 4, 3, 2, 3, 2, 1. And then once you've got that, you probably just go back to a vowel because it will be easier, right? So eventually you abandon the numbers, you go to the vowel, right? So now nice and slow on the vowel. Ah, great. And then I'm going to start to speed it up. Okay, so that last one was pretty dang fast. If I'm thinking about each and every individual note, I am not going to be able to move that quickly. So let's go back to this like idea of singing being muscular, right? When we're doing something that's muscular, it usually requires conscious thought of like tap my finger over and over again. Like I'm having to be really conscious about that. There's a limit to how fast my brain can process all of that consciously. Your ear and sort of your subconscious can do a lot, but your conscious brain can only move so quickly. So when I go, if I'm thinking about every single note, there's no way I'm going to be able to move that fast. What I am thinking about are the turnaround points, and I'm kind of landing, almost accenting each of the turnaround points of 5, 4, 3, 4, 3, 2, 3, 2, 1, right? And then the rest just kind of happens automatically because I have those good patterns in place and because I spent the time to learn the tune, to learn the riff. I went slow. I learned it. I got it in my brain. I got it in my ear. I got it in my voice. But now when I'm trying to go faster, I can't think about each and every individual note. That'll just slow me down. So I'm going to land on those turnaround points and accent them. Right? That's going to help me move a lot more quickly. Think about when you speak, right? You don't think about every single individual word that you're saying for the most part. You think about the phrase as a whole, and then you have some landing points in that phrase, right? The same is true when you're going to sing a riff or a run. You want to think about the phrase as a whole, and then you want to find where your landing points are. And your landing points are always going to be where there's a change in the pattern. that is where you can put your brain, but then the rest is just going to have to happen sort of automatically. Okay, so I do like this approach of slowing it down and gradually speeding it up so that you can really internalize the tune of the riff, so that you really get it in your ear, you get it in your brain, you get it in your body. But eventually, when you want to go really, really fast with it, you're going to have to let go of thinking about the individual notes, and you're going to have to find where all of those little landing points are, and that's where you're going to put the accent. That's where you're going to put the focus. Another exercise I see a lot is to do it on staccato. If you don't know what staccato is, it's that short, just clipped sound. So you could go like, okay, so here's the thing about staccato. Again, I like the exercise. It helps you keep some buoyancy in it. You definitely need some buoyancy in order to move your voice faster. If it's too heavy, it's not going to move. So staccato keeps things light. It keeps it bouncy. It keeps it buoyant. But if you don't have those good breathing patterns in place, when you go to do staccato, it might sound like this. And you can hear I'm doing that by bringing my chords together for each individual note. That in no way, shape, or form mimics what you're going to be doing when you sing that riff or run, because you're not making every note here, right? Your breath is carrying it. So if you're singing it like that, that's not really going to benefit you. You want to make sure it's and even that, my breath is carrying it. But the way my breath is working is not quite the same as the way it's going to work when I sing it connected, because I'm almost like pulsing from my stomach of and that pulse is not going to be the same when I sing it together. Okay, so the staccato one I like a little less. It can help. It can connect you to your breath. It can help you find that buoyancy, that lightness that you need in order to get your voice to move. It can also help you learn the pattern, right? Because to sing something short and sharp like that, you need to be really accurate. So it can help with your accuracy. I don't know how much it's going to speed you up, right? So again, you can do it staccato and focus on those landing points of and then right? So staccato is helpful. Maybe not as helpful as the first one of just slowing it down and gradually speeding it up, but it is helpful. But know why, right? And the reason is because it helps you feel buoyancy, it helps you feel lightness, it helps connect you to your breath. But if you're doing it like this, I see very little benefit to that. So just make sure it doesn't sound like that when you're doing the staccato exercise. And if it does, that's fine. That just means like, hey, let's pause. Let's go back to some breathing exercises. Let's make sure I've got my breath working. Let's really work on breath support and watch all the videos on the breath support and do all the exercises on the breath support, and then come back to this idea of agility. Okay, the last little thing I want to leave you with is just an analogy to help you understand why when we want to move our voice quickly, it's more about airflow and it's less about hitting each note muscularly, okay? Wesley agrees. So think about a violin, right? And violins can typically move pretty fast on one bow, right? It's like one bow. And granted, there is muscle involved as their arm is moving, but it's just like one bow. If they had to rebow each one, right, that's going to really, really slow you down. So think of your airflow like your bow, right? And you can just string as many notes as you want together onto that one bow. But if you have to redo the muscular action over and over again, that's going to slow you down like crazy, okay? So that's why I'm so big on play the long game on this one. Get your breathing patterns in place. The other thing that I didn't talk a whole lot about, but it's consistent resonance. If your resonance starts forward and then it falls back, or if it's just moving all over the place, that's going to slow you down. I haven't really done a ton of videos on resonance, so maybe I'll add that to my to-do list, but that's kind of another foundational component of singing is just consistent resonance. And so that's going to be the other thing that's going to allow you to move quickly. So build those foundations, and then when you go out there and you YouTube like vocal exercises for riffs, oh my gosh, you're going to have so much more success with them because you understand that this is about airflow and this is about resonance. It's not about this muscular action learning how to happen more and more quickly. It's really not. You're not trying to get your muscles to move faster, 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 faster. You're trying to create a long phrase that rides on the vehicle of your breath, ultimately. So I hope that helps you guys at the very least kind of understand on a cerebral level, like what we're trying to accomplish when we're doing a riff or a run. Good luck with all those exercises out there, you guys. Let me know what you want to learn, and happy singing.